I wanted to talk about what happened when I built my very own first project as a self-taught developer and learning everything myself, just researching. I'm going to go over this. Let's do this. All right. So I'm gonna lay out the game plan and the battlefield and what's all going on here. Okay. So the thing was, I said, where you get this thing where when you first start learning how to code, a lot of people, if you haven't noticed, they'll tell you, hey, build your own project. You have people that'll tell you, hey, do some tutorials, get used to the language, and that's cool. But not only do you want to follow tutorials, you want to actually start building your own project, even if it's a small project. Now, where I kind of went over and beyond, I will admit, I did a huge project. I'm still working on it to this day. It's called Meal Locker. Meal Locker is a meal review application. Basically, what it does is it doesn't focus on the ratings of a restaurant. There can be 17 restaurants in your area that have over 4 stars, and all of them serves, let's just say, a chicken sandwich. How do you know which one is the chicken sandwich that you want unless you've been there personally? You wouldn't know. All of them have great reviews. What you'll have to go on is what people talk about. Talk about the meal. What makes this chicken sandwich better than the other 16 other restaurants in my area, right? So I said, perfect idea for a project. Make a project called Meal Locker where basically people review a meal that they had at that restaurant. Now, if people are leaving reviews of meals, you can look up that restaurant and you'll see these reviews of that. You'll see these meal reviews of that restaurant, and based on how people leave reviews, you can kind of get an idea or a sense of what that meal would taste like or how it was made. Maybe they'll even put in how much it costs before you even get there. So it just gives you another level of understanding meals at restaurants. Okay, so that was one of the projects that I got started on as my very own project. Now, when I started this, I didn't have a clue of what I needed to build it. When I thought about the idea, I said, well, I know for a fact, based on me learning JavaScript, HTML, CSS, I knew I was going to need a front end, and I knew that I will need a back end, because this was going to be something I was going to have online. And I need a way to save the data where people can see everyone's review of meals at a restaurant. So this led me on a journey. I started just going on researching mode, looking on YouTube, Google, looking for certain framework stacks that I can use to help me build my project. But not only that, I wanted a project that I can build, that I can learn from. I can really understand about being a developer, a web developer, understanding front end and understanding back end. And it doesn't have to be super complicated. I wanted something that I can build with, and then as I get confidence, I can dive deeper into a subject if I wanted to. This is what led me to Next.js. I love Next.js. Next.js, if you haven't heard of them, but Next.js is basically a language that is a blend of the front end and the back end. And me and Next.js was destined, because I wanted to learn front end, but I also wanted to dabble in a little bit of the back end as well. So Next.js allowed me to do that. And the way they have their documentation, I love it. I love it. For being a beginner, you was able to look up stuff. You was able to take that, implement that into your project, and move from there. Now, as I got into my project, I started quickly finding out that I didn't know certain stuff. I didn't know it like I thought I knew it when I was watching tutorials. So when you're building your own project, you will find this out very soon. When you start building your own, you'll find out that as you write code, you will stop and say, how do I write this? And you'll have to Google things. I Googled a lot, okay? Being a developer, I learned from talking to other senior developers, even ones that own companies. Google is your friend. Do not be scared of it. Do not be ashamed of it. I'm going to be the one to tell you, I will use the heck out of Google if I have to. Because Google is like your assistant, okay? If you need to get some more information on what's going on, Google it. It'll find it for you. And then you can use that as a judgment call on what you want to do. So building my project in Next.js helped me to learn about the server side of programming, learning about the back end, because I had to store my data somewhere, right? When a user leave a review, where does that review go? I can't just leave it on the front end. Once this user leaves this page, it's gone. So I said, you know what? I will start learning about some back end stuff. And that's when I got into learning about the back end, and I had to figure out what type of back end, like platform layout, I wanted to have. So I ran into, thanks to a friend of mine that I've met on Twitter, shout out to Theo. Theo had put me on to a very easy, well thought out tech stack, which was Next.js for the front end, back end, and PlanetScale for the database. Next.js has serverless functions. That's a whole thing in itself. But PlanetScale has a serverless database. This was amazing because the serverless database was very reasonable for its price to have databases. It's fairly reasonable, so you can do your own testing and stuff like that. But if your app or application gets out to the world and starts scaling, this thing can be reasonable as well. As the cost comes up, it's still well priced compared to some other solutions. So this was great tech stack for me. I also use Prisma. Prisma is basically, in layman's terms, if you're a beginner, it's like the middleman. Like, you ever went to a place where you didn't speak the language, but there was someone there to convert what you were saying into their language? That's how Prisma is for the front end, affecting the back end. That's how Prisma works. It's like the middleman between the front end and the back end, sort of say. It's the liaison, okay? And I love Prisma. Prisma has been helping me learn databases and schemas and how to delete, create, read, update. I've learned it all through schema. So if I want to go further down the route, I can learn more about it if I choose to. So being a beginner developer on my first project, everything was new to me. How to create authentication. I use NextAuth for user authentication, where people can log in through their Gmail account. And also you can use an email if you choose to. But this has been very a up and a downhill battle, because when you're new, everything's new. If some crash or some don't work, you don't have you kind of got an idea because it'll give you an error. But other than that, you have to research it. You got to figure it out. And in the midst of figuring all this stuff out, you find out a lot of stuff that you do not know. And then you tend to remember it, because as you keep building your project, like me, I'm adding features onto my project. I'm adding design, UX, the back end. I'm building this thing and I'm learning so much. So now when I get ready to build something else, or if I get part of a team at a company, I have a great baseline, a good understanding on how things move, okay? I'm not saying I know everything, but building my own project has taught me way more than a tutorial has. A tutorial, for some reason, your brain doesn't clicks like it clicks when you do your own project. So I highly recommend, if you are a beginner tutorial, if you are a beginner developer like me, build your own project. Even if you're watching a tutorial, learn, like, go inside the tutorial and pick certain stuff out that you like, and you can implement those little pieces into your project. And this is how you learn about certain stuff, like hooks in React, get server-side props in Next.js, how to cache data, with Vercel. I'm learning all these terminologies. How did I learn these things and they're still in my head? Is because I did the work and I just let my brain figure it out. Like the way you learn building your own project, make sure it's something passionate. The way you learn, I don't know what it is, but it just sticks way much harder. Because I understand you can watch a tutorial and then you go back or you try to do your own project. For some reason, you don't remember all of that stuff. But when you do your own project, you tend to remember the idea, how the direction you want to go, and if you need to, Google some things, you can. So that's what I want to talk about in a nutshell. It's like build your own project. It's gonna be a whole different feeling on how to become a developer. And then after you do that, you can work on implementing new programming languages or implementing certain features or certain packages into your project that will help your project be more efficient or be more faster or be more less error prone. You just learn so much about what you need when you just go off you take the training wheels off of doing tutorials and actually get into your own project. So that's my nutshell. I'm not a person that don't like tutorials, but I'm saying as much as you watch tutorials is as much as you should be building your own project. So I really want to have all the pro devs out there that are beginners. Start with your own project. Find something that's passionate. Look up the documentation. It's okay for your app or your project to crash and burn. Just figure it out. Keep persistent, and you will be able to be a better developer. You'll be able to get your skills up, and you will get the gains that you need when building your own project. So without further ado, you guys, I'll catch you guys again. I really enjoyed talking to you guys, putting this video out. Leave a comment if you really feel this video has helped you in any type of way. And that's it. All right, you guys, take it easy.